Vines have been planted in Sonoma County since the mid-1800s, and although it's adjacent to the more famous Napa Valley, Sonoma has a brand name in its own right. It's one of the great regions in America, maybe even in the entire New World. Sonoma County dwarfs Napa County in terms of total land area. However, Napa is more densely planted with vines. There's about 18,000 hectares of vineyards in Napa, about 25,000 hectares of vineyards in Sonoma. There are less than 500 wineries in the region. There are 19 AVAs, American Viticultural Areas, spread out through Sonoma. I used to think that Santa Barbara County was a lot more exciting to me in terms of all the regions in California, although lately I've been tasting some wines out of Sonoma that have really knocked my socks off. Granted, I don't know Sonoma as well professionally as Santa Barbara or Napa, and I have to give Sonoma credit. There are some real dynamic wines being made there, especially those by Pax Mali, Jolie Lade, Monterio by Patrick Cappiello, and a slew of others. There are also some real famous wines made. People think of Sonoma as a cooler climate region because you have great Chardonnays, Pinot Noirs being made there. However, there are warm areas where you'll see Cabernet Sauvignon planted, namely Alexander Valley, Jordan, Silver Oak are some of the most famous wineries there. You also have Dry Creek Valley, which is right next to Alexander Valley. Has some of the oldest vines in the world. Some of the Zinfandel vines are well over 100 years old. You'll also find old Carignan vines there too. For white, Chardonnay is the star, although you'll see Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Gris as well. I haven't tasted a ton of Sauvignon Blanc from Sonoma, and I have one here today. The impetus of this video is last October, I was at the Wine Spectator Experience in New York, and in between a couple of seminars, there was a little luncheon put on by the Sonoma wine growers. They liked what I posted, and they said, hey, would you like to taste a few more of the wines? I said, why not? Send them over. So this video is not sponsored, but they did provide the wines here. That luncheon really got my gears turning, made me think, you know what? I need to taste more wines from Sonoma. I need to get out there sooner rather than later. I do have some friends that live out there. These are all more premium wines. While in Napa, it can be hard to find value for money wines. Sonoma, you can find a slew of wines that are affordable, including ones from producers like Rodney Strong, which we have here today. However, these are all more premium wines, showing off what Sonoma can really do. So I'm excited to taste these for you. First up, we have a sparkling wine. Sonoma shares Los Caneros with Napa County, just north of the San Pablo Bay, north of San Francisco, so it is a premier cool climate region. Although the vines for this sparkling wine are made in the Green Valley AVA, right in the center of Russian River Valley. This is the Iron Horse Gratitude 2019. This is mostly Pinot Noir with a little bit of Chardonnay, I think about 25% Chardonnay. It's on the lees for, I think, at least 16 months. I don't have those exact details, so if somebody knows, you can leave it in the comments below. Iron Horse is one of the wineries that is very well known for sparkling wine. They make a lot of different cuvées, so it's hard to keep their portfolio straight, but I haven't tasted this one, so let's get tasting. Again, how to open a sparkling wine. I like to remove the cage. Some people like to keep the cage on. You see people in celebrations spraying it, making big pops. When you actually open a sparkling wine, you want to make as little noise as possible. So you put it at a 45-degree angle, you grab the cork, and you start turning the bottle. And then you've got to be real careful. I can already feel the cork starting to pop out. You want to make as little noise as possible, just like that. These are some high-quality wines. I mean, this comes in at $70. So I'm tasting out of two great glasses. First, the Gabriel Glas Gold Edition, hand-blown. This glass is pretty hard to get. I don't have a link for it because they're always sold out. Premium restaurants always take the bulk of them. This is a foamy wine. I'll let the bubbles settle. So it wasn't a great... I mean, I've had this in the fridge for like 2 weeks getting cold. So it's weird that it has such strong bubbles here. It's so funny. This kind of looks rosé in color. Although I think it's classified as a white sparkling wine. Although it is Pinot Noir mostly. So it's a Blanc de Noir. It's not... Okay, let's give this a go here. Very nice flavors. I love Blanc. This smells more like a Blanc de Noir than a rosé. You get some subtle strawberry notes. You get lemon notes as well. White peach. The yeastiness really comes through here. So that's what I'm liking a lot. Extremely yeasty. Think baked bread all day. It's so funny. It's a yeasty, fruity, sparkling wine. I can tell it doesn't resemble champagne, but it does resemble a super well-made sparkling wine. Let's give this a go here. So much strawberry, watermelon, lemon flavors. Bubbles are pretty darn aggressive. It's also extremely yeasty. With these California sparklers, I find them a little more plush, a little more generous. In champagne, I like that acidity. I like that sharpness. This is super well made. I don't think I'd confuse it with champagne, but it is very well made. That's good. No complaints there. 92 points for me. We're talking about champagne prices, but again, one of the determining factors about the price of wine is the quality of grapes, is the price of grapes. That is tied back to the land. Real estate in California is not cheap. That's why California wines tend to be a little bit more expensive. It is a very good wine, though. Let's move on. I'm excited to drink more of that later. Next up, a wine from Dry Creek Valley, which is famous more for Zinfandel, but this is Sauvignon Blanc. This is the Quivira 2020 Sauvignon Blanc, Dry Creek Valley from Sonoma County, $44. This is aged for 7 months. Used French oak and acacia from Forest in the Jura and Champagne. Okay, only 14 barrels were made, so let's give this a go here. Gotta be honest, not super well versed in Sauvignon Blanc from Sonoma, so I'm excited to smell this. I actually like bigger barrel fermented styles of Sauvignon Blanc, and this fits the bill. This is really good. This is not New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. Don't think of those really grassy, just explosive flavors. You do get some guava. I get some pineapple. I get a touch of grass, but not too much. I get a little bit of mango. It's kind of like the balance between something French and Napa. Napa sometimes I feel like can become too guava and too mango-y. That is not the case here. Oak integration is outstanding. There's some white pepper. This smells awesome. Ooh. This has got just enough acidity to be tingly at the corners of your mouth, but it's not too big. It's not too obnoxious. I think that's outstanding. That's one of the better Sauvignon Blancs I've had probably in the last year. Great length, perfect wood integration. You know, some of the best Sauvignon Blancs I've ever had have been from Miani and Friuli, Venezia Giulia, Dagenau, Temet, and South Styria in Austria. And I have to say, I'm getting a tad excited here, but maybe I'm in a good mood. I'm 94 points on that bad boy. I think that's it's so funny. I'm carving these because I'll retaste them. I also share them with some fellow colleagues, other wine people. And I kind of just want to keep that for myself. That is good. I'm impressed. I want to taste more wines from Quivira now. I know they do Zinfandel. They do Rhone grapes as well, because you'll see Rhone grapes in Sonoma, including Syrah, which we have here. Let's move on here. Tasting a Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, two things that Sonoma is known for, so I'll use my Riedel Pinot Noir Performance Glass. Next up, winery I don't really know that well, Copain from the Sonoma Coast AVA. This is the Chardonnay 2021. I love they have the ingredients label on the back, just grapes, SO2, and tartaric acid. So $42. Let's give this a go. I generally have found that I like the Chardonnay from Santa Barbara County and Oregon, the Willamette Valley, the most in America. Sonoma, both Pinot Noirs and Chardonnays, sometimes I have the stereotypical image of them being a little bit too oaky and too vanilla-y. I know that's changing as I've tasted some brilliant ones lately. Let's see how this one shapes up. Copain, I have no idea about this producer. I love this glass so much. So, not too oaky, not too obnoxious. Bright pineapple, yellow peach fruit. Not oaky at all. You know, you can tell that there's it's like a little bit of spiciness from the oak, but not vanilla, not clovey. The fruit really shines through. The fruit's so bright, kind of reminds me of some of these Oregon Chardonnays I've been tasting lately. Very nice balance of people that like bigger Chardonnays, combined with that linear, more acidic, lemony style that I like. It's fuller body. You get the wood on the palate, but it's not too oaky. It adds like a sense of body to it. It's not creamy and buttery, but it is a little bit of a full-bodied wine. But then again, the acidity wipes the palate clean. I wanted to not like some of these wines, but for me, good 92 plus points. I think this is good, and I'm going to drink. That's good. That's really the style of American Chardonnay I like to drink. You know, it's not Burgundy. You can tell it's California, but you got the acidity, so that's really good. The way that prices are going, $42, I actually think that's a pretty darn good buy. That's a really good wine. Let's move on. Pinot Noir, an expensive one too. We have the Dutton Goldfield Pinot Noir from the Dutton Ranch Emerald Ridge Vineyard. So within Dutton Ranch, it's kind of a famous area where a lot of great producers source fruit from. The Emerald Ridge Vineyard must be a part of that Dutton Ranch. It's in the Green Valley of Russian River Valley. This is 2021, comes in at $80. We got to thank Sideways and Burgundy for all those increases in Pinot Noir. I've got to tell you, in the past, I did not like Sonoma Pinot Noir at all. Some of the OG producers, I found them too vanilla-y, too oaky. But lately, I've been tasting some bomb-ass Pinot Noirs from the region. Let's give this a go here. Wow. This has got the Sonoma fruit. Deep, rich fruit. Raspberry and cherry type flavors. It's more fruity. You can tell it's California Pinot, not Oregon, not Burgundy. It's not super earthy. But that's okay. I do like that some of these regions of California have kind of settled in a style of their own. Not everybody needs to make Burgundy. Deep, intense, like there's just a purity of fruit here. One of my vices are fruit snacks, and back in the day, I like fruit roll-ups. It's an American snack. There used to be like these fruit roll-up bars that I love, and the strawberry cherry one, it reminds me of that. That's nice. Not too oaky. Let's give this a taste here. Rich, mouth coating. This is young still. You get a little bit of wood on the back end, but it adds to the structure. I know this is not a cheap wine at $80. Not cheap at all. You know, maybe if you go value for money. It's so funny when people say, oh, is it $80? Is it 2 to 3 times as good? That's not the case. You usually get a big spike in quality in America from the $25 to $50 range. I mean, you get a big spike in quality. Once you go over 50, to me, you get kind of diminishing returns. But it is really good. Really good. It's got the structure or concentration to make me think, man, this is really going to become something with time. I'm 93 points on it. I think it's very good. I think their basic Pinots are in the $30 to $40 range if you kind of want to get a taste of their house style. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's super good wine. It just is. Next, we have the Ramey Syrah Sonoma Coast 2021. This comes in at $50. Ramey Chardonnay made the top 10 of Wine Spectator's wines of 2024. I think it's phenomenal. This has a little bit of Viognier co-fermented in it, so it's a Côte Rôtie play. And you know what? I'm going to hold off on tasting this because I did a video with the Ramey Syrah Rogers Creek Vineyard 2017. Same blend, Syrah with a little bit of Viognier against the Henschke Hill of Grace. That video will come up soon, so I'm just going to leave it at that. I just have to say, though, both these wines, I'm also not going to taste it now because I have tasted this wine, and I have to say it's super good. $50. You know, the way the Rhones are, it's super good. But let's move on here. Another grape that Sonoma is known for is Zinfandel. Not my favorite grape in the world, although I do like examples that become more leaner, more shot enough to pop-esque, but when they become too jammy, it's a bit much for me. This is the Pedroncelli Bushnell Vineyard Zinfandel 2021. This comes in at $45 from Dry Creek Valley, where some of the oldest Zinfandel vines are. It says these vines are 25 years old, 16 months in partially new American oak. Only 550 cases produced. So this is more of a special Zinfandel. Comes in at 15% alcohol. Zinfandel, a lot of times you cannot run away from the alcohol. That's just is what it is. It's high alcohol grape. I work retail part-time, as some of you who watch the channel know. And one of the guys that I work with has been in retail for like 30 or 40 years, and he loves Zinfandel. Like, it's his favorite grape. It's like the opposite. Usually in wine, you find that as you start to drink more and more wine or taste more and more wine, you want more earthiness, you want more subtleties, you don't want bombastic, in-your-face flavors. But not the case here. That's why everybody's palate's different. You got to trust your own palate. Let's give this a go here. First of all, this does not scream Zinfandel out of the glass. American oak does not overpower the wine. This has more like blueberries. Kind of like cassis. There's a little bit of bacon fat. I get that probably from the spice of the American oak. But it's a nice accompaniment to it. This is one of those wines, actually. Now I get some dried strawberries. This is a wine. Sometimes I feel like good Zin can replicate Chateauneuf de Pape. And I feel like this might be it, at least on the nose. And it is young. Let's give this a taste. Great mouthfeel. Phenomenal mouthfeel. Big, but not too round and jammy. It's just like a full-bodied wine. You got this nice peppery and spice flavors. It reminds me, this does remind me of a Chateauneuf de Pape with just riper tannins. The tannins are more supple. They're not super grippy. I don't know. I'm going on a, not my favorite grape, and this is one of the better Zins I've had. Especially if you like that style, very Chateauneuf de Pape. I'm going to go 95 points. I think it's outstanding. Pedroncelli makes like a basic Zin for like 17, 18 bucks, I think. Or, I know, somewhere around 20. But at 45 bucks, I think that's... It's not cheap, but that's value for money in today's world of wine. That's really good. And then Phil, if you're watching, you're gonna like having it because I'm gonna pass that to you. That's good wine. Let's move on. This is a winery that produces really good value for money wines, but they also do produce premium stuff. I think they're still family owned. I don't think they've sold out to a big company. This is the St. Francis Merlot. This is the Behler Vineyards from Sonoma Valley. Another one of the more renowned AVAs at Borders Napa. 2021. Aged in French oak for 15 months. I got some tech sheets with these wines. I want to see if, because in America, if you have a varietal wine, you can still have 25% of another grape in it and still call it Merlot. You also can have 25% of another vintage. You know, that's a dirty secret that people don't really want to hear or don't want to know about. Let's see if there is anything else in here. 97% Merlot, 3% Cabernet Sauvignon. This comes in at 50 bucks. Cabernet is really what's in vogue and for a long time, especially when it comes to California. But I think the Merlots are kind of where it's at, especially if you're drinking these wines on the younger side. Sometimes when I'm doing a lot of tastings of California Cabernet, all the tannins just can get to me. It's not super enjoyable. Merlot is a little plusher. However, Merlot can be deep and richly structured too. So a lot of people are used to the thin, cheap, watery Merlots. But when you drink a serious one, you start to get it. Let's give this a taste here. Okay, this is very plush, fruity. If you like fruit, you're going to be all about this. You got dried red plum, dark cherry flavors, just a hint of chocolate mocha, just a hint of clove. It's not oaky, but it does have a little bit of spice, a little salt and pepper action going on in there, kind of like my hair. Although it's so funny, with this lighting, the grays don't really show up, but I'm getting pretty darn gray. Comes with age, right? Nice, not as complex maybe as the Pedroncelli, but I'm liking it. This is for a lot of people that like fruity, smooth wine, so to speak. The tannins are not, again, they're softer. They're not ripping my face off. It's fruity. It's plush. Right now, it's pretty darn young, so I kind of want more complexity to come out of it. Right now, it's more fruit, plushness. But you know what? I think a lot of people are going to think this is like the best wine ever, especially people that are spending a little bit more money used to California wines because it is so fruity, so round and plush. I prefer the Zin more. I'm going to give this 92 plus points. I think it's very good. I'd like to see what this does. I'm not intimately familiar with their higher end wines. I do know their lower end wines pretty well because I sell them in my shop. Again, you got to know your own palate. A lot of people are going to think this is the most plush, smoothest, best wine ever. Let's move on. Another big winery produces some really good wines at affordable prices. This is their top end. Rodney Strong. Their basic Pinot Noir, which is under 20 bucks, I think is very solid. I think their Chardonnay basic, you can get it for like 15. Make some cheap Cabernet. But this is their high-end Cabernet. This is the Brothers Cabernet Sauvignon 2018 single vineyard from Alexander Valley. This comes in at 90 bucks. not cheap. You think of Napa Valley a lot of times when you think of Cabernet Sauvignon. However, there are some great Sonoma cabs. I actually have to admit, I was doing a tasting in my shop of the Jordan 2019 cab for some guests, some clients, and it'd been a long time since I had the wine, and I have to admit, it was really good. I was like, oh my gosh, because Cabernet is not my favorite grape, especially California Cabernet, although it's so funny. It's not what I choose to drink or buy because of prices, but I have to admit, some of the most impressive wines I've tasted have been California Cabernet. I am not anti-big winery, especially when it's still family-owned, which I think Rodney Strong still is. I don't believe they've sold to Constellation or Gallo. I don't believe. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. Because they can produce good wines at scale, and then they can also produce premium stuff because they have the money to play around with it. Let's give this a go. Alexander Valley, where Jordan is, Silver Oak. Another impressive one I've tasted is the Louis Martini. I think it's the Monte Rosa. I think. Okay, let's give this a go here. Okay, the oak does come out here. So if you like that style, you're going to like this. But you know what? It is layered and complex, I have to admit. I got black cherry. I got the oak. I got the mocha. The spice. It's a little more complex than the Merlot. Rich and big. But you know what? Sometimes I just recently tasted a lot of top flight Napa cabs. And it wasn't really an enjoyable tasting because when they're young, you know, they're tannic, they're kind of all the same. This definitely has some complexity. The oak's laid on heavy, but it does have complexity. Rich, big, layered. It's not too oaky on the palate. You do taste the oak, but it doesn't overpower the wine. It's not a soupy wine. Some of these Napa cabs a lot of times, or California cab in general, can be soupy. This has complexity. I would not confuse it with Bordeaux, I don't think, because it has the ripeness. This is what a lot of people in the steakhouses, expense accounts are going to want to buy. You got to know your own palate. I think some people might think it's like the best wine ever, outstanding. Not to my palate, but I definitely can appreciate how high the quality is, and I would enjoy drinking some. And it's not one of these California cabs that you drink it and you're like, oh, I can't drink another glass of this. I'm 93 points on it. I think it's good. The wines that got me the most excited is probably the Pedroncelli, which I'm surprised, the Sauvignon Blanc, and the Pinot Noir, surprisingly. Tell me, what are some of your favorite producers from Sonoma? Do you like Sonoma wines better than Napa wines? I'd love to hear. Drop it in the comments below.